take care of first. So at this point, I turn it over to Jessica.
I call Mike, Andy, and Jeannie to the front to be sworn in.
Yeah,
I was in the front.
you were technically. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, we got. Oh, all right. Sorry.
So if you raise your right hand and state your name,
I, Judy Law,
I'm Mike Molding.
having been elected to the Board of Education of the Unified School District of Antigo,
having been elected to the Board of Education of the Unified School District of Antigo,
Whatever.
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability.
of said office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
so help me God.
Can't be said that, please.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the little formal part, so we just conduct the rest of the meeting. So now that we just all sat back down, let's everyone stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Bobby, roll call, please.
Jessica Mead.
Here.
Andy Baring.
Yeah, I'm here.
Noel Deeb.
Here.
Mary Newfeld.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here.
Danielle Yushka.
Here.
J.D. Schrader.
Here.
Jeannie Long.
Here.
And Mike Boldig.
Here. Thank you, everyone. Alrighty, we will go on to item 2, the consent agenda. Be looking for a motion, please.
Move the board approve the minutes of the March 20th, 2018 meeting, financial reports from February 2018 and March 2018, checks number 8564 to 8741 in the amount of $331,767.52, ACH numbers 171800929 through 171801195 in the amount of $1,314,546.90, and two wire transfers of $22,868.81 and $24,996.77 in the amount of $47,865.58 for a total amount of $1,694,180.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Deep, seconded by Ms. Long. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Bobby, let's do roll call vote then on that.
Andy Baring.
Yeah.
Noel Deeb.
Yes.
Mary Newfeld.
Yes.
Danny Pyatt.
Yes.
Danielle Yushka.
Yes.
J.D. Schrader.
Yes.
Jeannie Long.
Yes,
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
And Mike Boldig.
Yes. Very good. Now comes the part of the meeting that we normally don't hold, but we are required once a year to do this. Board annually after the election reorganizes, so we've already taken care of item A where the elected board members have been seated. So we'll go to item B, and we will be looking for a nomination of a clerk pro temp.
I nominate Bobby Brown as clerk pro temp of the Unified School District of Antigo Board of Education.
Do you have a second? Okay. Motion from Ms. Yuska, second from Ms. Mead to have Bobby as the clerk pro temp. Any other nominations? Any other nominations for the board? Third and final time, any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. Would anyone like to, well, let's vote. We don't even have to go that far. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Bobby, you are the clerk pro temp. Item C, nomination election of a chair pro tem. Opening up the nominations.
I nominate Dr. Tim to Chair Pro Tem for Unified School District Antigo Board of Education.
I'll second that.
Have a second. Are there any other nominations? Second call for any other nominations. Third and final call for any other nominations. Hearing none, nominations are closed. All those in favor of the chair pro temp being Dr. Tim, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. I turn the gavel over to the pro temp chair.
Didn't warn you. Should have nominated Tim.
Yeah. All right, so we're taking nominations for the role of board president.
I'll nominate Mike. I'll second that.
So we have a nomination and a second for Mike.
I'll nominate Dr. Deep.
Wait. That came from Mary and then,
Mary and JD. Other nominations?
I'll nominate Dr. Deep.
A nomination for Dr. Deep.
Does it need a second?
I don't-
Sorry.
May I respectfully decline?
Yes.
He declines. Do we have any other nominations?
Mike.
Okay. Second call to third call for nomination. Hearing no other nominations for the role of board president, do we have a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Our board president is on.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I get to take it back now. I didn't take that. Alrighty. Well, thank you, board, I appreciate that. We'll go to item E, which is the nomination and election of a board clerk. So we'd be looking for a nomination there. We have a nomination of Jeannie Long by Dr. Deep.
I'll second.
Don't really need one, but I
Okay.
was wrong there, but Andy corrected me and thank you.
It's
So,
good for the moral support.
there you go. Are there any other nominations? Third call, any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. All those in favor of Jeannie Long as the board clerk, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. For board clerk. Next one, nomination election of vice president for the Board of Education.
I'll nominate Jessica as vice president.
Okay, we have a nomination from Ms. Yuska of Jessica Mead.
I'll nominate JD. Can I decline? Decline.
Nominate Andy Mary.
I'll decline.
See what gets done.
You're taking an awful lot of time.
We have other nominations who have declined, so we have a nomination of Jessica Mead. I will ask a second time. Are there any additional nominations? Third and final call, any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none, eight nominations are closed. And ask for a vote for Jessica Mead as vice president of the Board of Education. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Jessica, congratulations. Next office will be that a nomination and election of board treasurer.
I'll nominate Danielle.
Danielle nominated by Andy Mary.
I'd love to nominate Danny Pyatt, please.
I'll decline.
You have the right.
Nomination. Okay, we have another nomination, which is also declined. So we have Danielle Yuska as our nominee. Do we have any other nominees? Third and final call, any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations for board treasurer are closed. All those in favor of Danielle Yuska as treasurer of the school board, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Danielle, congratulations, board treasurer. Item H, appointment of a representative to the CISA 9 Annual Convention and the CISA 9 Board of Control. Be looking for a motion there to appoint a representative.
I move the board to appoint Andy Mary as the representative to CISA 9 Board of Control and to attend CISA 9 Annual Convention to be held on August 7th, 2018.
Any other? I understand we have a second for Ms. Long, since this one's an appointment rather than an election, so. Any other discussion on the appointment?
Close nominations.
Nominations are closed. Motion before the board is to appoint Andy Mary as representative of the CISA 9 Board of Control and to attend the CISA 9 Annual Convention. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Andy. Item I, appointment of an alternate delegate to the Wisconsin School Board Association Delegate Assembly Convention.
Wait, can I ask who's thinking they'll go to the convention?
Well, board policy does stipulate that the board president should be there. So I know I'll be there. I know in the past Jeannie has been a very avid attendee of it. Danny went down this last year. Any one of us can go, or all of us can go.
Yeah, my question was, who's going, who thinks they're going?
Well, put it this way, I know I'm going.
Okay.
And Jeannie's going for sure.
I'd like to nominate Mike Bolduc and Jimmy Clark, delegate nominated.
If you flip them around, that would be nicer.
That's okay too, Mike.
Jeannie has been I will say this, Jeannie has been our delegate for the last several years and has gone to the General Assembly and come back with a lot of good information and stuff, so. And I'm gonna be there, so I don't have any problem being the alternate, so. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
And we have a second from Ms. Yuska. I don't think we need to discuss it any further, so all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Item J, appointment of representative for the Joint Review Board for the TIF District within the city manager.
I'd like to nominate Danny Fred.
Second that? Is this a second?
Yeah, this is one that would take a second because it is a motion rather than an election, so. Any other discussion on the motion to appoint Danny Clyde as our representative for the Joint Review Board for the TIF District? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Danny, you are our representative for the TIF District. Congratulations. Designation of an official publication.
I move the board designate the Antigua Daily Journal as the official publication of the Unified School District of Antigua.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The Antigua Daily Journal is our official publication. Congratulations, Lisa. Designation of official depositories. And we have a list of them, so we'll be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board adopt the following. 1, Banner Banks, BMO Harris, Co-Managed Credit Union, Huntington National Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Mid-America Administrative and Retirement Solutions Incorporated, PMA Financial Network Incorporated, Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative, as the official depositories for the Unified School District of Antigua.
Second.
Yeah, that was a motion by Ms. Mead, second by Mr. Pyatt. Any discussion on any of these? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item M, authorization of electronic signatures. Looking for a motion, please.
I move the board authorize the use of the board officers' facsimile and/or electronic signatures as allowed by law and not prohibited by rules and regulations of the respective agency or organization.
Second.
I think Mr. Mary beat you to it. Motion by Ms. Mead, second by Mr. Mary. I think everyone's clear on this one. It just gives the district the right to use. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes care of the reorganizational portion of the board meeting for this evening. And I think we have to, by request of the official publication, we need to take just a short pause so somebody can get their picture taken. So indulge us for just a minute. Go ahead, thank you. Officers, for just a second.
You guys are like press out.
Where do you want us?
Just come right here. That'll be good. Okay. Okay, a photo bomber. I want to be a photo bomber.
Let's get right in.
Gotcha, thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you. Oh, you guys didn't want to be in the photo?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I think Aaron Rodgers is being Alrighty. We are now then to the regular portion of the meeting. Item 4, citizens and delegations. Do we have anybody signed up? We do not. Okay. Item 5 then, student representative report. Jack, you're on your own tonight, sir.
I speak on behalf of me and Erica because Erica's at a softball game. Coming back from last week we had a senior portfolio night, which is a new thing at the high school. I think it turned out pretty well. I know a lot of different people from our community were there. Father Zach Weber said he talked to me about it. This weekend is prom, which is a pretty big deal. The Grand March is at 8 o'clock, and theme, pretty sure it's Under the Stars, which should be pretty fun. Other than that, baseball, track, and spring sports are pretty much just getting underway with the snow and all that, so that's good, and I think a lot of people are happy with that.
Alrighty. Graduation is just around the corner. Very good. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Jack at all? Anything that's been going on here? No? All right, very good. Jack, thank you. New business items, committee of the whole. Be looking for you.
I move the board approve the committee of the whole minutes from the meeting held April 10, 2018. Second.
Okay. Motion for Mr. Pyatt, second for Mr. Mary. I believe you've all had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I was there.
Yes, no, you were, and if you look at
It's down.
the minutes
Oh.
in the new business, it does indicate that you arrived at 7:05.
All right, but I was there.
Yep. I looked for that myself.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay. Any other questions about this minute?
Sure.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, minutes are accepted. Alrighty, moving right along. Board action items. Item A, policy review. Be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board adopt the policies 345.11, the class rank, and 412.1, definition of full-time student as presented.
Okay, a motion from Dr. Deep, second from Mr. Pyatt. Any discussion on the policies? And we've gone through them. And appreciate the time that administration has taken to get them up to date.
Will you refresh my memory, because this is the one with,
It defined what a full-time student was.
yeah,
The
and,
number of classes.
because if they were involved in Ames and only one credit or whatever, so now,
You have to have a minimum number of credits that you have to take.
Season in the school.
okay, it has to be.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify and make sure I fully understood it.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Alrighty. Item B, WEA insurance plan. So, looking for a motion, please.
Move the board of the WEA health insurance plan renewal as presented.
Do we have a second? Okay. Motion from Ms. Mead, second from Ms. Long. Tim, would you like to give us some?
Yeah, these are 4 plans that we currently have. The first 2 plans, the first 2 sheets on your document are what we call Plan 1 and Plan 2. So these are the high deductible healthcare plans.
Is there a difference between those two?
There is, if you look under the one with the co-insurance, and as an example, you can look at the maximum out of pocket, and I believe that that's highlighted in yellow. You'll see a couple of items. So the first plan is essentially a $10,000 deductible, and once the deductible is made, then it's standard insurance with no co-pays. The second plan then lists the $10,000 deductible. We contribute $1,350 into an HSA, and then they have co-insurance for an additional 20% for the next $10,000. Then the next 2 plans below it are our retiree plans. And the retiree plans, as you can see, if you scroll down towards the bottom of the sheet, there's a participant list, and it gives you an indication of how many retirees we have on those plans. And so you can see that between the 2 plans, essentially we have under 30 participants on those plans. And those plans were the plans that were in effect at the time that they retired. So one is a straight high deductible healthcare plan with a $10,000 deductible, $5,000, $10,000 deductible. And then the other one, I'm thinking off the top of my head, is $2,500, but I could be wrong. And if you look at each one of those summaries, on the bottom there's a 4% increase. So across the board, our health insurance premiums will be going up 4%. We had a health insurance meeting where they rolled this out to our committee, and I believe we're over 95% of premium utilization at this point. So we've had a higher than expected usage this year.
And it follows Tim on the heels of about 4 years of not having an increase, is that right?
I think it's actually 5.
So we sort of anticipated this was going to, at some point.
The thing that makes it very interesting is right now we have the HSA and the HRA. And the HRA piece is essentially $7,400 that we're almost running like self-insurance. We're funding that at a rate of 46% of that liability. And so the vast majority of our staff they're fortunate that they're healthy. We have a small percentage of our staff that are high users of healthcare. And that's unfortunate for them and for us.
So what they told us is that our usage at the low level of kind of care, we're really good. You know, we don't have people going in for just kind of random things. Where we're high is on big ticket items. So we have people with very significant issues. and that is what is impacting us. But otherwise, it points to the fact that our employees are really good consumers of healthcare. Just that some are going through some trials right now that require the use of insurance.
Tim, so remind me of this again. Right now, what's our deductible? $10,000, but we contribute $7,400? Or is that as an HRA?
Yeah, so we're not actually buying health insurance premium for that 10,000. So the employees are responsible for 2,700, and then the district HRA picks up the next 7,300 on a family plan. So does that make sense?
Say that one more time.
Okay.
So how much if it?
So the plan says it's a $10,000 deductible. The employees are responsible for $1,350 or $2,700 of that.
If they're a family,
Single or family. And then the district has an HRA account that picks up then the difference between, and I want to use the 10,000 because that's easy for me, 7,300 of that cost. And we're funding that at roughly 46 or 47% of that $7,400. And we're seeing that that rate of contribution level is maintaining that balance. So there's a gap there. If we were buying health insurance premiums, we would be losing that. So every year, we're actually saving by having that HRA piece under our health insurance plan. But what it does to the employees is they're responsible for paying that $10,000 bill, even though the district reimburses. So they need to match their explanation of benefits up with their invoices that they get from the hospital or the clinic or wherever they're getting their work.
So would that be only for the network then, if you are out of network?
Correct.
It's 20,000?
Yes.
So if they go out of network, then they have much higher
Correct.
market.
But we have a very wide network, and we have very few complaints with folks saying they can't get the services they need in network. Where when your kids go off to college, they got to be smart users of healthcare too. So if they have non-emergency care and they choose to run to the local provider in their community without checking with their parents first, we run into snags with that. So they're out of state someplace and they go to a hospital or a clinic that is not within the national network, and they don't do that too often, but it does occasionally happen.
Right, and the narrower the network you go, the cheaper your costs are. So we could really narrow it, just use a Spirus and whatever the sister to that is in the
Rise plan.
in Wausau, but then that really limits again the people that.
Well, that's what I was getting at, because they narrowed it quite a bit for us, and so Marshfield, all those are out.
Yeah, and Marshfield is in.
Okay.
So it's a Spirus Marshfield. We've got a fairly robust, and we know that adds. So, it adds.
Get that too.
Well, I my insurance plan.
Yeah. That's pretty good, thank you.
Any other questions of Tim on the information?
And I would just say we had a good committee meeting. I mean, I think we had good, thoughtful people there that understand the constraints that the district is in and understand that we're trying to provide a compensation package that attracts and retains people. So good teacher and support staff representatives there.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, as long as there's no other questions. Bobby, let's do roll call vote on this.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Mary Nuka,
Yes.
Denny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yeah.
Mike Colby.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item C, HRA teacher contribution and sick leave provision. Be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board accept the HRA teacher contributions and use permission as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion, Dr. Deep, second by Ms. Mead. Discussion, I think you all have some information to look at or have looked at already.
Colleen, has this been discussed with the teachers? Has this been presented at different forums?
We did talk about it with our teacher council, and we actually made a little bit of a modification after that, because one of the things we were looking at is teachers are kind of working under 2 tiers. Our veteran teachers can go up to 120, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, they can go to 120 sick days, new employees 60, and so the thought was to bring everybody to the 60 day, and some of our veteran folks expressed the fact that they value keeping to the 120 mark, so we asked them to keep the 2 tiers in, but I don't think that there was anybody against getting some kind of contribution back for unused days that would turn into an HRA that follows you if you leave the district and it's something that you're building toward retirement. I'm going to add to that, Tim, do you think?
Yeah, so the particulars are how I've been working with our auditors and along with DPI on how the process has to work. So I'll bring forward plan documents on the, we've really, Colleen, we've got 2 things going on in the motion. So I'm not sure, and I was multitasking, so I think you were talking about sick leave as in donation.
They're donated.
As well as the sick leave with the HRA piece.
Right.
And we really have 2 separate motions that I would need you to make. And the first motion is basically, I talked at the committee of the whole about the HRA and having forfeitures that I need to be able to transfer out of the general HRA account for teachers to make a payment into their individual accounts. And I wanted to use the forfeitures to do that. So I need a motion to be able to allow that to happen. The second piece is this sick leave bank. And I'll bring documents, plan documents together for the HRA on sick leave. I'll be doing that in April, but the concept is that we would be reimbursing sick leave, and we're going to reimburse $50 above the maximum allowable days that they can carry over, whether that's 60 or 120 days. Then the third item on there is the donation of sick leave to individual catastrophic purposes, and we talked about that at the committee of the whole. So,
and we also brought that to the teacher committee, and my understanding is that you had that in place pre-Act 10. And so one of the things we looked at, and Melanie did some work, was to look at neighboring districts, what they're doing. We wanted to have something in place to help in those catastrophic situations. But one of the concerns always with a sick leave bank is that it can come to a point where it's abused. So I think we settled on some language that we think helps our employees who do have those catastrophic pieces, and yet should position us to protect against it being abused, because even other employees don't want it to be abused because it becomes a burden on them. So we have a system where they have to contribute 2 days, have a little bit of skin in the game, but then they can draw on it for those catastrophic pieces. We do have one exception that we're going to offer in terms of there'll be a note going out for a staff member who's had a series of 3 catastrophic things in recent period of time, and so we're going to allow an exception to the rule for this year, but this would ultimately start July 1. And I think people, I think, will be judicious in giving to it, because whatever sick leave you don't use, you can get the money that goes into an HRA. So I think that helps the pool from growing to thousands of days that can, get out of hand as well. So we think it's a nice balanced approach of helping people grow some kind of post-retirement piece for themselves while protecting an ability to have a little bit of an insurance policy if you want to invest in it for those catastrophic things that exhaust your sick leave.
5 years, if it's going really bad and we have a gigantic bank that's being used up, can we take it away? Or is it like
you can take it away at any time. I think one of the things you'd probably want to, revisit, I think we want to monitor that too, because it is obviously best thing to improve instruction is a quality teacher in front of the classroom by far. You know, I remember when I was doing my dissertation, I probably told you that I was researching school boards, and they said, why are you researching school boards? Teachers are the most effective thing in raising student achievement. So I think we always want to protect having teachers in front of kids. So I think that's something we'll monitor. And it is a drain on the colleagues around them that end up filling in or helping out when there's a sub in that classroom because they can't fulfill every role of the teacher. So it is something that we'll have to monitor. And we can even bring you updates on that annually or something so that you know it's going. I would look at, rather than just pull it, how might we have to revise it? And I think we could bring that to that teacher council and get their input because they'll feel the impact on it too if it's getting to be abused.
You know, in JD, it's a voluntary program. So only those people that contribute at the beginning of the year are eligible to submit, you know, a request to use it. And I've had people ask me, well, what if we go through it all? Well, if we don't have enough interest to support the sick leave bank, it'll go away on its own.
Yeah, and it's not for pregnancies, but if you had a baby and it was born with severe, you know, problems, then that might turn into a catastrophic. It's not for the person who says, I'm having knee surgery and I want to do it in the winter because I want my summer off. That's not catastrophic. You can do it in the summer, you know.
Tim, going back to your explanation, you said 3. What I see in here is only the donated sick leave bank rules and the donation form.
One more will be coming, right?
So the sick leave, I'll bring you plan documents on the sick leave next month.
So should this
Colleen
motion only be?
Colleen was describing some of that piece of it. So there's really 2 items, the donation of sick leave for a sick leave bank, and then allowing me to transfer the forfeited.
But that's not in
funds.
here that I'm seeing though.
Not yet, yeah.
No,
You'll have the third
So,
piece.
so the motion would only be to accept this donated sick leave bank rules and the donation form then.
And since we do have a motion on the floor for both parts, we'd look to amend.
I guess, Dr. Deep, I can give you essentially.
What I'm saying is I don't have that in front of me.
There's no document. I'm asking permission from the board to allow me to transfer funds. They're sitting in an account right now in the Fund 73 Trust. So it's a designated account for this, and they're forfeited by staff. And I need to be able to transfer funds into individual accounts using that money. And I'm asking your permission.
You don't have a document in that, but that's in your statement. I move the board accept the HRA teacher
That's what I'm getting at.
contributions. Right.
Yeah, and it's a poorly worded motion on my part.
But it achieves what you want it to achieve.
Yeah, I need authority from the board to make that transfer, because it'll be about $110,000.
So then the motion as written and as stated will cover what you need to do?
Yes.
Okay, then we're good. You clear on that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, for that explanation. Appreciate it. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yeah.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
and Mike Boldy.
Yes. Thank you. Alrighty, item D, wraparound care in 2018, 2019.
So I would like you to grant us permission to put an RFP out to see if we can get wraparound care that could be housed at the middle school for next year. That would be for our students who are in 4K. So if you attend partial day, the other part of your day could be spent in that wraparound care. And if you're in every other day, you could spend the whole week in that area. So we'll have room, obviously, at the middle school next year, so it could be a pilot opportunity for us to do this. That's one of the things that I've been hearing since I came to town, from our teachers included, that it is a hardship not to have as many daycare options as they would like to see. People like the sense that they can drop their student off in one place. Now, what I would be interested in looking at is If we had interest in it, they're going to wraparound care in a different setting, can we set up a little bit of a shuttle and get them where they need to go? What I'm especially interested in right now is, do we have a vendor in town who would come in and set up shop, expand their business or start a business and run it out of our school? And I'm showing you what we used in our last district, which was a lot built on what Elko had done, what the state of Wisconsin had recommended, and what we had put together with our school attorney. But I think it is a need in the community, and one of the things that I like about having it housed in the school, what we found, is that they worked very closely with our 4K teachers so that there is an educational component to their play. You know, they're working on sort of some of the early numeracy and some of the early literacy. You're learning some of the social skills because you're in with other kids. So I think there's a nice partnership that can happen to help students have a nice foundation for what they're doing. So there is interest eventually when we do the consolidation and we can get 4Ks into the elementary schools, that it would actually happen in that setting, but we're not setting that next year, but we would be able to offer it in our middle school for next year.
Do we have enough room, I forget, to get younger, like, I don't know, 1-year-olds into the program too, to try to help alleviate the daycare shortage? Yet then, whoever would do it, whoever accepted the proposal, like, is that part of the proposal? Or is
You know, I think we'll be tight to do the 4K wraparound care in the elementary schools, and I think, Amy, you're gonna be tight when we put the 4th and 5th grade. So I don't know that we can go lower than the 4K. It would be ideal if we could, because I think it's such a nice convenience, and I think that the partnerships that happen between those settings in the school, again, have that play-based learning, be foundational steps to help kids get ready and have those early readiness skills. But I don't know that we'll be situated for the space for that. I think we'll be tight even for the 4K, but I really want that to happen, and I think it meets a big community need.
you think their parents would drive their kids to Pleasant View?
For childcare out there, do you mean?
We need more space, can we open a daycare, or can we find a better space?
That's also out of town.
I know it's a bad option. It's best option.
Well, but then.
Oh, it's a
you
whole
have to
other
make
can of worms. You
arrangements.
could have a conversation about that being your early learning center. Do you put 4K in childcare in a particular setting?
Maybe. I just mean, you know, it's hard to get in daycare for people.
Yeah.
So if somebody would expand.
Well, maybe one of the things that we do is, pair it with a survey that could go out just to community about, are you interested in this 4K piece, and then would you be interested
That's a good idea, because I know
in
people
a
want to be able.
0-3? You know, in each of those things, I mean, they have to be licensed, so even in our setting, the state will have to come out and they'll inspect our site and make sure you have the toileting and the water kinds of things, and they have to have a certain amount of space, and they have to have access to gym space and all that kind of stuff. So they'll have to come out and inspect all of that. And then I think, I remember, because we modeled ours after Elko a number of years ago when we were running it ourselves initially. And then, there's certain things that you have to have for babies and whatever, because their needs for water and toileting and whatever, they can be even more intense. But maybe we do a survey and come back and let you know what that is.
Yeah, just be curious to.
I think it is a need. When you listen to our teachers, it's a need. I mean, they need something that's in town, convenient, that they can drop their kids off, know they're safe, work a full day, and be able to pick them up.
You just hear stories of, oh, I just found out I was pregnant, I better go tell the lawyer so I can try to get on that wait list,
Right.
15 months early.
Yeah. And this town, I think, is somewhat limited in their licensed daycare, and I think it is a problem for our community. It's a need. So I don't want to compete with area businesses. If we can have a business that can come in and expand, that's what we had happen in our last. It actually turned out to be the most successful model that they had. They had expanded then to another school district. So if it's a win for a local business, it's a win for our families. If our kids are coming with good readiness skills, it's a win all the way around. So I'm looking for your blessing to begin the work of exploring that.
Jake, you think your mom could open up some more daycare rooms?
No.
They're packed there. I know, we need a different building.
I don't know if Spiders would be interested in that. It doesn't sound really like this time that we would need a full board motion for a request for proposal, because realistically, we're not tying any dollars to it yet.
No dollars are being tied, it's
But
putting
you're
on
just
feelers
looking
out.
for our blessing to go ahead and.
Right.
I think it's a good idea.
Would this expand? I mean, like next year, we just have 4K at the middle school, but the year after, are we gonna have more 4K in our elementaries? So are we gonna be taking 4K kids from other agencies that are doing it now?
Our interest would be that we move our 4Ks back, except we've had some pretty long discussion, and where's Heidi? I think that the consensus from our early childhood teachers was that 4K should stay, that the Head Start should stay in that particular setting because of other wraparound services that happen there, but I think there's interest in the other settings coming on for a variety of reasons, and Heidi, and I don't know if you guys want to put me on the spot talking about it, but there's some need for age-appropriate students who receive special services. They have to be able to have interaction. Say that.
Natural environment.
A natural environment to.
Red gears.
Yeah. So there's some interest in getting that onto our campus. Otherwise, we're having to sort of artificially create those experiences.
Yeah, what's happening right now in 4K is we have kids with special needs that are in, I only have certain amount of teachers to provide, and so our classrooms are becoming heavy with special ed kids versus regular ed kids, and that's not an ideal model in any situation. So we're looking at how we can expand that so that there are more 4Ks for special ed kids with a closer environment.
And because our 4Ks, and Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if, does everybody know Heidi?
The other Heidi. I'm Heidi Davies, early childhood teacher.
And she's at East, but I think one of the other things that has been to my surprise in coming to Antigo is that because our 4Ks are off-site, we often don't think of them as being part of our K-12 planning. So we do student services, and I remember at the beginning of the year, there was a question of like, oh, should 4K be at this meeting? And I was surprised that my experience and expectation is, of course, they're part of our 4K-12 school district. So I think there's some sense that sometimes because they're off-site, they're treated as an other and they're not included. And I think if we really want to capitalize on and leverage that really important jumping off point for their formal education, we need to have good alignment. Heidi?
I'm just going to say we're restricted right now because some of the programs that we have caps. So Leroyer, we only have 16 students. So when students qualify for special education at the 4K level, we really only have one option, and that's at East. That gets overloaded, and therefore that's kind of where we're at. So we don't have enough services to be able to spread out our early childhood services at this time. We have one teacher, Heidi, and so.
Right, Leroyer limits, Head Start limits, and then when you look at the two sections that are at the middle school, I want to say, Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were 27, 28, 29 students, which really is too many for 4K. So we'd like to bring as many of those on our campus or in some campus, and so we could balance those class sizes better. So we have some work and some improvement that has to happen at that level. Jake is a clerical worker, as you know, in the elementary school. We've done walkthroughs of the elementary spaces to say how can we refigure space to be able to, house all of the things that we want to house in the schools as we consolidate.
Does All Saints still have a 4K through the district, and we would take that one back too?
Would be my interest in doing that.
Peace has that.
Yeah, Peace has early.
The only thing that I would look to leave is Head Start, because again, I think that the consensus of people who know that particular experience, it's unique, and I think there's relationships and there's services that wrap around families there, and so there's a sense that we could end up just losing families if they had to split time between those two settings, and so probably the best interest is to try to ramp up what we're doing in that setting, but leave them in the setting. The rest we would like to come back onto our campus.
So couldn't we look to make sure that we have the space before you start looking for
We
proposals?
know we have the space, yeah, and we'll have it already again in the middle school because they're losing a grade next year, so we can put it in that school for a year, and
And
then
even
the
with your proposal
following
for the
year.
future too?
The
you expand?
following year, we would be able to put it in those schools. I mean, we're gonna be tight, there's no doubt about it, but we'd be able to accomplish that. Because not all of those kids will stay. Some have their own childcare, daycare, people who stay at home. So not all those kids will stay at school, but some will. And like I said, and I think we also have an interest in doing something in the morning. You know, often these will start at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and they can run till 5:30 or 6 at night. And I think we want to continue to pursue conversation with the Boys and Girls Club about what can they come on our campus and provide, and then how does that open up space for more of our older kids to go to their site. So there's just a lot of those things that we want to work on yet.
Well, it sounds like the board is in consensus as far as taking,
Take a look at it and get back to us.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay, we'll get started on that, we'll bring it up.
bring it back at a future meeting, and we'll things out. Good. Item E, social media EDU agreement for 2018.
And this is just an annual review of it, and I have to tell you, I was a little skeptical about paying an outside entity for it this year, and I will tell you, there have been instances where I think it's worth every penny. I think they do a good job for us.
And is the amount about the same as the?
Yeah.
Then I move the board approve the renewal agreement with social school for EDU not to exceed $10,000 for the period July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Deep, second from Mr. Byatt. Any discussion on this one?
This is the one that Brian brought to us like last year.
Yes.
And it's just the
Just
overall.
Yep.
We're
They do
getting us
your
established and-
Instagram, they do Facebook, and they do Twitter for us.
So when they're looking at it, they're monitoring all activity.
They're monitoring the activity, yep. They notify us when there's inappropriate activity. They have screeners on there, so if people are using inappropriate language, it doesn't show up to the public. And the nice part is because they do this in districts around the state and beyond, they have some standards that they can recommend.
And with convention, Danny and Jeannie and I had the opportunity to meet with Andrea Gribble, talk to her a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, they do a great service.
They do, and they're very responsive. You know, if you want something on there, they get it on there. If they have questions, they match up the resources to figure it out. So they do a good job for us.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Bob, let's do roll call, please.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
Katie Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary.
Yes.
Noel D.
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
No.
and Mike Woolley.
Yes. Motion carries on a 9-1, or excuse me, 8-1. Okay, very good. Item F, purchase of English language arts materials.
Kelly, you want to jump in and?
Sure. So you saw most of that tonight when we had our external consultant present as to the direction that we have been working on since the beginning of the year. One of the biggest things that our teachers have expressed to us is they need quality research-based instructional materials at every building and every classroom to provide that high quality of instruction to every student regardless of what building they're at or classroom. So we've been responsive to that. We're looking at, based off of our implementation data that we have from the RTI Center, we've looked at the different components that we've needed to supply our system with the areas that we need to strengthen, and some of those were our reading foundational skills. So this gives a little bit more details as to what areas we're supporting in this purchase. So we're looking at phonics lessons for K1, our reading units of study for our K through 5 and 6 through 8. We're looking at our shared reading resources, so that's one of the components of balanced literacy. These would be the resources that would be thinking of the consolidation with in mind. You'll see those different numbers. So these are the ones that we would only need in the city schools, and then for 1 year we'll make due to be responsible with our finances to be able to share as needed. Our interactive read aloud supplies would be for every teacher, so you look at that would be K1, 2, and then our guided reading materials would be looking at K through 2. Our continuums, which really, you can scroll down if you want to, but looking at our continuum, so that was one of the ones that she showed us tonight, which was really that K8 type of vertical alignment for all of our reading foundational standards that align with the Common Core curriculum. And then that was another area that our universal literacy team of teachers really action planned around with the RTI Center that was lacking in our district, was that those reading foundational skills were not consistent, which was aiding in the deficits that we're seeing right now with our student achievement. So that would be what that material is. And then looking at classroom libraries, so anywhere from 300 to 500 books that would be in the hands of all of our students in every single classroom. So those are the materials that we're looking at for this year's purchase. That's in front of you right now. You guys have any questions at all?
So it's a big purchase, but I think if you look at what our teachers would tell you is that the basals were taken away. I think you heard it this year from some of them. The perception is that the basal was taken away 4 years ago and they weren't given the strategies or the materials to replace it. So this is meeting a long overdue need. And what I was also saying, when you look at the different pots of money that's being drawn from, you know, we have so many silos of money in public education that can only be used in certain ways. And so Tim's done a really good job of making sure that we check out with the state how can we apply those pots of money to achieve sort of greater good that we're trying to achieve here in the area of literacy. So this is pretty monumental for a district our size to be able to achieve this. It's no small feat, and it's been a lot of people working together in terms of creating the vision of what we need to support the direction that we're going with that instruction, and then how we can do it, because there is no new money, and we are reminded constantly that we are one of those low-funded districts in the state. So this is exciting. We were able to share with the teachers today that we are bringing it to you tonight, that our hope is that they would have it in their hands before they leave the summer. And then you may have seen that there's August dates that we're looking at and having the teachers come and train. They would be able to, one of their own questions today was so we'd have time to page through this and then come to that training in August with questions to help us move to the next level. So it's an exciting time after some great training this year to now put quality resources in their hands. And I think when you went and looked and saw what they were doing in Winneconne and saw the vision that we are working to achieve, this is another step in helping that become a reality for those folks. So it's very exciting. So we ask that you please approve it.
Up to what grade level are we looking at here?
Primarily K-5 at this level.
And 6-8. But then looking at what materials would be sent out for the next year, we're looking at phasing in as we implement with high quality professional development. That was another area that our teachers really expressed. Please do not give us resources without giving us high quality training with that. So instead of just piling it all on this next year without coupling that with training. So we're looking at different phases.
I thought that Nicole said some of the materials at the upper grades aren't out this year, but they're going to be out next year.
Yep, and
So there'll be a phase 2 as some of the releases come out. So this won't be it, but it is a big chunk. It'll be our biggest chunk.
It will be the biggest chunk.
What about electronic books now? I'm seeing that you are on that Google Chrome. You have some ideas here for providing the Chromebooks for all the kids in 8 and 9. What about the middle school and The elementary schools, are we looking at providing them with tablets or Chromebooks or something in the future then?
You know,
Are we
it's-
looking at providing them books on there so that they can,
Mhm.
they don't have to carry the books home and rather
Yeah,
read it online?
I think you still see, especially in the elementary grades, you still see a lot of paper books for the literacy piece of it, but we were just talking about that because we've actually made new textbooks for math in the elementary grades, and we need things for social studies and science. We had that very conversation today of which of those will be online books versus a paper book. I still think you see, especially in the lower elementary, the paper book, but I think when we get into some of those other content areas, you know, we'll see how far down those electronic books go.
And we're really looking at analyzing what software we do have in the district. We just had a detailed meeting with our administrative team today with our external consultant, that we are making sure that we support the software that isn't just putting the students on it to be in place of the teacher. It's really supporting what we're doing with high quality authentic teaching, and then supporting that with software as well. But we do have Learning A to Z, which is a plethora of many different online books that also allows our teachers to be able to print those off and send them home with our students who might not have literacy support at home, without having to tax the district on replacing our very expensive classroom libraries with authentic books. So that's another way that we're doing at-home support, as well as the digital support as well.
Is it book bundles for 6A, Kelly? Forgot. Or like classroom library sets for
Yes,
6A?
there will be classroom libraries for 6 through 8 also.
This year?
Yep.
Noel, I think the one thing we all have to be cognizant of particularly when we look at the K-5 and even K-3, because we're Sage AGR schools and we're schools with titles, we have a little more flexibility at the lower grades. As we start rolling this forward, it'll be much more difficult with grant funding. So we have to be smarter at how we spend our money. We do a per pupil allocation right now to the buildings. And at the elementary schools, for the non-Sage AGR schools, it's $120 a student for all the school supplies for the year. And then we have a small textbook adoption budget that this year was approximately $75,000. So to support an initiative like this, to think we can roll that forward and then maybe do something with some other curriculum there, we're going to have to be very smart at how we manage those funds.
But can you go out and fundraise in the future or look for grants or something?
Well,
that would support it or grow this, once for a district which is sort of strapped for funds, we can't expect.
Well, and I think, our public has their support of K-12 if we can show them that we can.
That's what I'm getting at is, are you planning on expanding on this, and then are you looking for public support or grants or out to foundations?
So one of the things that we've done this year is really looking at the funding that Heidi gets with special education and all the things that she looks at. And then with Tim, myself, and looking at all of the different regulations around the different silos of funds that we've had, we've really worked together this year as far as action planning and district plan. And that's how we will operate in the future, to ensure that all of our money is being used together to support the same initiatives rather than buckets, which doesn't create high efficiency and doesn't support all of our students in every school as well as it could.
I think the other thing we have to do is have a multi-year plan of which things we're gonna tackle. So we know we're taking a big chunk out of literacy, we'll have to have some literacy next year. We're gonna dip our toe into looking at math, and again, we just talked about this today. The next year, we would look at tackling science, and the next year, look at social studies and make sure we have K-12. So most districts have, a 5 to 7 year textbook replacement plan so that you create something that's sustainable and you don't have these funding cliffs on it. And I think another thing that I would like to do is we're gonna have that data tool that rolls out to you in June, where you're gonna get a dashboard on each of the 3 school levels. And I think a next step would be to engage our community to do some strategic planning, some 3-year, 5-year, 10-year strategic planning. What are our priorities and how will we fund them? I mean, you know, Tim can cast forward with his financial tools. What are our priorities and what's it going to take to sustain those, and what does this community want? I think we really need to have that community voice in that.
Then maybe you need to look at a strategic planning session sometime in summer or something.
Well, that's what I think. I talked with a company today that they would help us with a survey, and they do some strategic planning. They said that once kids aren't in school, you don't get as good of a turnout, because I had thought maybe summer we could start some. And they said, you know, we could rush and do something this spring, but we're better off to wait till school's in session in the fall. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think, you know, I've shared our vision with Heidi for a project she was working on, a grant she was working on, and what was it, Heidi, 1989?
Which one?
The mission that we have is
Oh,
that-
1995 was the last time, although
Yeah.
Kelly says that maybe there's some out there, but
Yeah.
according to our policy.
Not in our
that's
policy
the
book.
last
So,
one
I
was
mean, it's
approved.
time that we do some of that anyway, and I think we're at an important juncture where we are moving along on the consolidation process, where I think it is important for our community to come together, and if this is
So
where
at
we're
least if
gonna.
we have a strategic planning meeting for the board and the administrative level staff, and then roll that out, or, you know, then we have something to go to the public and say that, you know, as your representatives, this is where we are with the school district. So
Yeah, you know what I'd love to do, I've had some experience where, you know, you invite people in and get 150, 200 people, and you bring a facilitator in, and you invite that community voice in, and I think that would be important for us. So I think that's something that, you know, we can have further conversation about at a committee meeting, but I think that's really something that we need to do, because we know short term how we're gonna fund things. I mean, Tim's a master at making a silk purse out of a, how is that, silk purse out of a sow's ear?
Sounds good, yeah.
But he isn't gonna be able to pull up the rabbit out of the hat year after year after year. There's gonna be a limit, and so we need to take a hard look at where we think we're going and what we're gonna do.
I have a couple of questions. I'm not looking at that here,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the individual amounts that you've got, library support, AGR support, Title I, and with the amount after each one, are we looking at the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, library support was $37,872. Does that mean that came out of the library budget?
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm wondering, in all of these things, obviously Title I didn't put anything forward, but
There's a reason, Mary, it has to do with what they call supplanting. So,
Okay.
But
that's not
Sure.
my question is there gonna be enough money in these other areas to cover their needs? I mean, you're taking almost $38,000 from the library, is that gonna give them enough money to function? Less that to go toward this
This is out of the current school year budget, it's not out of next year's. Current.
So they've got all that money just sitting there right now in April?
No, we happened to talk to Christie, Kelly talked to Christie back towards the end of February, I think. Was Christie still here? It was approximately in February. And so they've been working with Nicole for a while, and we obviously made choices on where we're gonna spend the money. And the building level principals then, to come up with the building level support of $37,000. This is coming out of primarily the elementary buildings. They also told their staff, we're not going to purchase X from now till June.
You mean this coming June?
Till the end of the school year, they were denying purchases, denying requests.
So how come some of the schools have been denied next year's budget? I mean, you know, we always had, when it came budget time, we sat down with our grade level or whoever, because we were a two-track school, and we put in our orders, and there's a couple of the schools that have been told there wasn't gonna be any money, and then they were told there was gonna be $200, but you can't have Weekly Reader and Scholastic News and these kinds of things.
So it goes back to.
But those are country schools.
No, But it goes back to what I said earlier about being smarter with our money. When we do the per pupil allocation, and I'm not suggesting these certainly aren't valid needs. At some point, we have to set a priority, right?
But what about a science teacher? Hands-on science. I know two science teachers that, and they're good science teachers, and they need supplies, and that shouldn't, where are they gonna get the money for that? Out of their own pocket?
Out of the building budgets, it'll have to come through the principal out of the building budget.
So one of the things that we've been doing, and we talked to the teams today regarding Scholastic News and regarding the exact purchase orders that you're referring to. And one of the things that we are dedicated to, which is part of the Wisconsin RTI Center model for what a multi-level systems and supports looks like, is equity among all classrooms. So we are listening to the voices of all of our teachers at every grade level and saying, okay, what wonderful, great things are you doing in science at PV or wherever it is? Let's share those with the rest of the team so that every student in every single first or fifth grade classroom at every single school can be provided that same guaranteed and viable curriculum regardless of what area. So what we're doing is really moving as a systematic team to provide equitable curriculum for all kids.
But that's
not that
probably
we're denying it.
But that's probably, next year's budget would be a separate issue from this, because this is spending this year's money.
But I don't think, I mean, the point is, we could not sustain a $225,000 purchase on an annual basis without adjusting how we're prioritizing our expenses.
Okay, so this money is this year's money and doesn't have anything to do with their orders for next year? I mean, the orders that you put in right now at this time of year for what they need for their classrooms next year.
Correct.
You shouldn't be, well, they shouldn't be spending this year's money for next year. I mean, the state and the.
Right.
So everything that you buy this year is supposed to be for this year.
Okay, all right, now my next question is, this $250,000 here, and it's not everything, and then next year, there's another
Small purchase.
stuff, is that coming out of this, or are you gonna say next year, then we need more money for next year?
So next year, what we're looking at, since we have this as a systematic 3-year implementation plan, you're looking at about $9,000. So it's a rough estimate, but it's significantly less. The reason why this was so large is to provide those classroom libraries. One of the reasons why Christy Bovary and I sat down collaboratively and looked at how can we provide a large amount of books to support our literacy initiative within the classroom, which is research supported. So that's why it came out of the library. That's why it's different next year with a much smaller amount that we'll be putting into that.
Okay, and then one last question. Do the teachers that are going to be using this company, this product, are they all getting the exact same thing for next fall?
Yes.
So somebody's not gonna come and say, hey, I didn't get this, and then somebody's not gonna say there's no money for that.
No, remember there were a couple sets that are gonna be shared for 1 year between city and country schools, because in the end, they only need one per school, so they're not gonna double that for 1 year.
Okay.
So that would be the exception of where they'll have to coordinate between their sister, partner.
Okay,
city
because there
country
were
school.
times where we adopted textbook series, and we would put in our orders and we would put in what we wanted, and then it would come to the building and you'd be missing key components. And we'd go and we'd say, where is it? Oh, sorry, there's no more money. You can't get it.
So this is exactly what we're trying to avoid, and I'm so happy that you're advocating for all teachers, because that's one of the things that we talked about with our staff is, does one school get these excellent resources and then another principal denies it and doesn't allow theirs? So that's why we're going to a systematic plan as to what are the resources that we feel are research-based and benefit our students, and how are we going to provide them for all students. So it's not that one school that has a large pot of money gets whatever they want. It might not align with what we're doing, or it might, whatever. And then this school that has a smaller amount of money doesn't. So I know that as we're building systems, it's going to be sometimes confusing and feel non-transparent, so I'm really glad that you're bringing it to us, and that's what we need to encourage our teachers to do too, is if they have questions and are feeling
Well, and no
Feeling that,
teacher, no
definitely
teacher has
progress.
mentioned this to me, but I'm thinking back on things that had happened before. And really, sometimes you go with a company and you were getting this free, and you were getting, come back to our company and you can get all this stuff free, and then you get it and you'd be missing something that was the key component to it, so really the rest of it was useless. But, oh, no, there's no money, no, you can't get it, and then, 2 years later, it's obsolete. They don't have it anymore. So I just wanna make sure everybody's getting what they, what they need.
I think that was one of the key things when I came to town that I heard frustration from the principals and from the teachers, is this school or these two schools would have it and we didn't. And part of our struggle has been that those city schools do have silos of money through special ed, through title, that the rural schools did not have. And now that's why we're using some district money, title money, federal money through, other areas, so that everybody's getting the same thing. Because it's not that they don't have needs in those rural schools as well, or that those tools wouldn't have been valuable. I've had to stand in front of one of the schools this year and say, it's the blessing, that you have this easier population, but it's the curse, because when you do have kids that crop up that have needs, there isn't a silo of money for you. So that's why I think that they've done such a great job in looking at it with an equity lens. And again, it goes back to what Tim said, pretty soon all the schools will look the same, so all kids within those grade levels are going to have access and treatment with those resources.
Would it be appropriate to see if the staff members that are here in the audience have any questions about any of it, or is that,
Well, we don't have a motion before the floor yet, so.
Yeah, we have had all the discussion, but nobody.
Yeah. We've had a lot of discussion, so I think just to get a little feedback wouldn't be out of
do
order.
any staff members have feedback on it?
Peggy, got anything to add to all of this business?
This is where you say you really want it.
Cindy?
Well, when she just.
That's Cindy.
Sorry, Cindy.
I didn't see you guys over there.
Okay, go ahead, that's Cindy can speak.
You can both speak.
Cindy Hodak, do you have something to say? No, go ahead.
Talk.
I was at half day in service today and I didn't hear about science and social studies that you just spoke of them, so maybe that was the other grade level.
It was second grade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's like, I looked at
Claire
and went, did I miss something today? Because I didn't hear that. I guess the way they're gathered this money is kind of, and it's not the way it's been done in the past. I get that, and change is change. But when they just said, you just took all your budget, your whole budget from your school and now it's putting in this pot, that's kind of just not right. Because, we have not gotten new technology in our building. We have not. The money's sitting in those places, and until you get a principal that approves it, you don't get those things. Teachers can't.
Technology.
Well, it's from all of them. It's from the field trip budget, it's from the ELA budget, it's from school supply budget, it's all of those. And it was just taken from us. Nobody said, what do you need to get to the end of the year? It was just gone. So that part was weird. That's never happened in my 31 years of being in this district. That was an odd way to gather your money. And I know it's at my school, so I'm assuming it's at everybody else's school.
And Cindy,
I have not talked to everybody.
Cindy, was there a question about next year's budget?
Yeah, there was controversy about that, yeah.
And is there a budget
First it was nothing,
for?
and then it was 400, then it was 300, then it was 200. I think it's 200 right now.
And that's for the whole year?
Yeah, because they
that's for
say
your
that what we need
supplies.
for ELA will be covered by them. So you're just buying things for science, social studies, your classroom decorations, math.
So $200, and the rest is out of pocket?
Yeah. But in the ELA, we haven't talked about
What
things
is
like
the-
handwriting.
English language arts.
English language arts, okay.
Yeah, but so we haven't talked about things like handwriting or any of those other components that are really part of it, but, so I don't know, I would assume they're gonna cover those things.
So one of the things that we talked about today too, is that every grade level is going to be meeting together to talk about some of the things that they need to provide equity throughout the district. So if there's wonderful things that Cindy Tyler is doing within her classroom, for any of those things, we want those expertise areas to be shared with all of our teachers at every school. So it's not saying that we are going to be cutting support off to any of the teachers, but we are providing equity. So one of the things we talked about with the teams today was that the things that they'll need for their classroom budget or their classroom environment, such as book bins to house all of their new books that they'll be getting. That will be coming out of a different pot other than that $200, which in the past, they've had to spend their classroom budget on things like Scholastic News or curricular resources. They've had to use that for anything that they want, different type of software. I understand that it's difficult as we build systems because it isn't the way that it's always been done in the past. So as we start to build trust and have open communication, that will start to help.
See, I'm just concerned about, they still have a year left in their places, someplace. And I'm just concerned that they have enough money to get the things that they need for their kids, for their classroom. And that's, I'm sure not counting all the snow pants that I bought and all the backpacks that I bought and boots and everything else. But I want them to be sure, that they're not spending a fortune out of their own pocket taking care of their kids. And that's,
Well, I know when we talked with the
That's
reading
what I
teachers,
want.
and I see we have a bunch of the reading teachers that are here. I mean, we specifically talked about when we had our meeting that you were going to encumber all the things that you needed now till the end of the year, not purchasing those ELA things. So whatever else that you guys needed for supplies and food, and I don't remember the other things you talked about, you were gonna go ahead and encumber those things, and then things you would normally buy, books, whatever, you specifically asked and saw that it was folded into this budget and it was going to be taken care of. So we have the elementary principals here. I don't know if you want to talk to in terms of messaging around what's happening.
We did sit as a team and we encumbered, and I had several email communications as well as weekly memo communications. No monetary amount was committed. That information, I'm not really sure where that came from, but here's what we committed to. Part of a concern came from some folks not knowing what was left in their budget, and Tim and I had several conversations, and I have several emails going back and forth with staff. I have one secretary who has some great strategies, so Tim and I talked about maybe sharing that strategy because it was under the impression that I would know what each teacher had spent out of each classroom budget, and that's not for me. You have your budget, and then you have to keep track of your requisitions and what comes in and what doesn't. So that might have been where some of the misunderstanding has happened before. I did look at what was encumbered, what was spent, what wasn't spent, and I had conversations with both secretaries in my building, and then we also met as an elementary principal team. Some of the things that I did share with staff were that if it wasn't something that wasn't supporting or necessary for education, I can't guarantee the money's going to be there. If you want stickers or things like that, I can't guarantee it's going to be there. But you will have a budget coming for this year. As far as last year, we sit and looked at what was spent, what was already encumbered, and left a projection, and then we filled it in from there.
Wait, when you say this year, do you mean, see, I don't know, are you meaning 2018-19?
Right now.
Or right now?
Right now, for the next this year.
And so then but what I'm concerned about is next year.
No.
I mean for 18-19.
They're all going to get a budget, and we have shared that. It'll be your third week in our memo, as well as.
Okay, I'm not questioning, I'm not questioning what went on at the principal meeting, and that's not what I'm questioning. I want the teachers to be able to maintain a classroom and take care of their kids, and of course it's different when you're looking 8th grade, 1st grade. You need it's a different world. And to me, in kindergarten and 1st grade, stickers are a part of the world. And that is not something that the teachers should have to buy out of their own pocket.
So I agree, and Mary, when I taught middle and high school, I didn't feel that it was my responsibility to buy tampons and personal hygiene products, but I did, because that's what we are. We're civil servants. That's what education is.
Okay.
We do have an education budget.
Yeah,
Well, I
we're starting to get a little too far off topic here.
So can we have a closing statement from Ms. Tyler?
Yes. Cindy, you got the last word.
Okay, and I'll make it an interesting one. At my school, we try to establish parent-school connection. We use this folder system once a week, a special Wednesday folder, so parents know that all important notes are gonna come home on Wednesday. We've been using it for years, it's a great tool. Our Wednesday folders got turned down. Could have been taken out of this year's budget for next year, could have been spent for next year's budget. It's like, do I have to take that out of my classroom budget to do something like that? Because it's been turned down twice already.
Cindy, it's been ordered. We can talk about it more tomorrow.
Oh, okay, well, that's good, because the last time I heard it was not ordered, it was canceled. So
That
it's one of
sounds
those
to me-
things that makes our school, you're starting from the get-go, making the homeschool connection. And those are the things you need. I don't care what school you're at, you need that connection.
You've been
You
ordered.
need that system.
Yeah.
of
It sounds to me like this is something
We'll communicate
that
tomorrow.
needs to be talked about at a building level and not at this particular level, so thank you for bringing it up.
I just hope the teachers have money.
That's
what they
working.
need.
We've kind of had a rather
Thank you so much.
long jointed discussion here, but we still do not have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, this is such a big purchase, and instead of cutting back on some of these things, going down to $200 a kid as opposed to $300, why don't we just take a little?
That's not a kid, that's a class.
Why don't we just take a little money out of fund balance? Because that's kind of what fund balance is for. It's for when you're gonna make a big move here, there's nothing wrong with using a little money out of fund balance. So why don't we take 100,000 for this purchase and, don't scrimp on other things.
But you're not talking about scrimping for this year.
Okay, so Andy,
It sounds like we are though.
let's look at all but the 37,000, and maybe we address that in a different way. We had the library support, as Kelly mentioned. Then when we look at the AGR support, that's funds in the specific AGR schools that would be Crestwood, East, West, and North. And we're taking a portion, essentially what I was looking at is looking at the K through 3 to purchase that portion of that ELA to those schools out of the AGR funds. Those are designated for those schools. Then we've got the behavioral support. The teachers and the principals decided that they needed document cams, so that was part of the whole plan. So every elementary room will have a document cam that they can use. Then I asked Amy if she was on board with this initiative. And Amy's building budget then at the middle school supplied that $18,344. I also talked to Amy where, because of the governor's increase in per pupil allocation last fall, we gave Amy an additional $25,000 in her technology budget. She reviewed her technology purchases, and I asked her if she had any additional expenditures she wanted to make. This is designed for software subscriptions for the district. Amy told me she had some things that she had to take out of there, and that $13,000 is what she could hold off on buying new software subscriptions. We talked a little bit with Cindy Fisher about social studies, and we, instead of purchasing, I believe it was 2nd or 3rd grade social studies curriculum, we took a portion of the textbook adoption budget and applied that to it. So out of the elementary budget, $37,000 was taken out of 6 buildings. Now, to Cindy's specific example, when you look at a school like Pleasant View, and they have 110 kids or 115 kids, and they're getting an allocation of $13,000, and you're taking 5,000 to 6,000, that's a major portion of their budget. We're doing this now. Those funds weren't expended prior to that. And we did meet with the principals, and the principals allocated that money out of those budgets.
And really, again, I'll say, the money that you have this year is supposed to be spent this year. I mean, when Tim does his audit, they're gonna look, everything that you bought this year should be on site, and their expectation is that you're using it for this year, not that you load up on your school supplies for next year out of this money. Ultimately, if you have so much money that you're buying for next year, it should have under levied, right? You're not supposed to hoard money for your fund balance, and you're not supposed to hoard money to load up on the supplies for next year. The intention is the money that they give you is to be spent in this year. So we are in April 24th. If you have a need for the end of the year to be used in your classroom, chances are it should have been encumbered already so that it arrives for you to use at the end of this year. I think this conversation has taken an unfortunate turn in the sense that Anago needs to figure out what Anago wants to accomplish.
Well, I didn't.
And I'd like to finish. How many years are you gonna sit and say, we don't know what to teach, and we don't have the money? And administrators have been blamed for that, and the board has been blamed for that. We have come together as an administrative team to give them the materials that they have spent a year preparing to use. When are we going to come together? Why does everything turn into a fight? Why?
And
Why do we slow down our progress, and why do we do that? When can folders be a small potatoes thing that we figure out? If they need folders at PB, I guarantee I'll get them folders. If they have to go buy them out of my money, my personal pocket, that should not be a distraction from the bigger picture. When is Anago going to stop fighting and start doing? When?
So as I understand this, basically all of this budget that we're talking about is what is in the budget, what we have money that is good for the next 6 weeks, correct?
Right.
And this is in no way impacting anything for next year.
Correct. Right.
So if you don't use this, this money goes
To fund balance.
Right.
Or
so
to
what
other-
difference does
other
it make if
areas.
you take it from fund balance and put it in here, and you put 100,000 in here, then you take 100 from here and put it back in there?
And I'll say one more thing.
Well,
You
if this money wasn't gonna get spent, I absolutely agree with you, but that's not quite what I'm hearing up there.
But I'm gonna ask you one more thing. This district has carried over a lot of money in funds that it could be carried over, in title and some other funds. You've carried over the maximum amount of money. In my opinion, the question should have been asked of past administration, why weren't we spending money on kids? Why were we carrying over the max? That's part of the reason where we're sitting in a position where we have money to spend $250,000, and all we needed to do was ask people to sacrifice to come up with the rest. And I understand it. This community is characterized by distress. But when are we going to come together and do something for kids? Kids are waiting.
So how about if we need more money for folders and stuff, we take it out of fund balance later and just approve this now?
If they need money for folders at PB, I will get them folders. It sounds like they have
It's for
folders.
next year. The folders are for next year. That was the order that was sent to me.
That
We
was
got two
what
principals
my
on the roll that
original
don't
Folders are for
question
next
was.
year. The folders are
So-
for next year,
so
they will be
let's-
ordered out of
okay.
next year.
Alright,
End of debate.
I'll make it,
I'm going to make the motion that we approve the purchase of the English language art materials presented not to exceed $20,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Deep, second from Ms. Yuska. I think the debate on this one has been.
Mike, can I just say one thing?
One question, sure.
It's, I was actually expecting that to be totally happy. I was surprised by that slightly. Andy and I went to Winneconne and we watched the teachers there use this program, and they loved it and they raved about it. And when Nicole, who's been working with our teachers on development, she's what they say, they just got the number 4 test results in the state in their reading. So I'm looking forward to the teachers being able to use to have this content and be able to help the kids. It should be interesting to see if it's really going to be 50-50 fiction and nonfiction. They should be able to learn a lot of things and hopefully improve their reading. So I guess I am excited about this. We did this and heard about it for an hour before we came into the meeting tonight. And most of the teachers sounded excited. But I agree, we got to make sure we can still fund other things, but we got to do this. This is like buying one John Deere tractor. So we have a big budget for the school district. So
For the state of Farm?
we can, it's just like one John Deere tractor for every farm buys one of these. We have a lot smaller budgets than this.
Any other
We should be able to afford
comment?
these books.
Yes, I'm sorry. Any other comment from any of the board members?
Oh, let's hope.
No, I'm just saying, when I said take money out of fund balance, it's, we have a lot of money here that's not used, but I don't see that we have to be pinching quite so tight and cutting out field trips. It wouldn't kill us to take $10,000 out of fund balance to finish that up, so it was a normal school year.
Next year's budget is a whole nother thing, because we're coming up with $500,000 that we have to cut with not a lot of places, so we still gotta pull more rabbits out the hat to accomplish that.
Alrighty. Anything else from the board? Hearing no further discussion, Bobby, roll call vote, please.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
and Mike Boulding.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, everyone, for that rather lengthy discussion. All right, moving on to item G. We have 2 separate motions that we need to look at, so be looking for the first one. For the board, please.
I move the board accept the bid from Gov Connection in the amount of $39,284.50 for the purchase of 50 laptop computers.
Okay, motion for Ms. Mead, second for Mrs. Pyatt. You all saw the synopsis that was put out from Ken Barton, Mr. Thompson, thank you. So, any discussion on the motion?
So these are going to replace the laptop. What do we do with the ones that we are replacing?
We do a couple things. We use, some of them are going to, they use as replacement parts. They were kind of, these are targeted primarily for teachers. And then we take those and put them in, let's say, problem areas in the computer labs where we have computers that are either broke or not running well. So they're eventually moved out of the system. And then we recycle our oldest machines. We end up with.
We can't sell them anywhere.
I would say on average, by the time we're getting rid of them, and again, this is off the top of my head, I would say they're 5, 6, and 7 years old. And
Pretty much obsolete.
they're obsolete, and they've been used pretty hard.
Pass them on to the board.
Any further discussion on the motion?
No, sir.
Bobby?
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary, Noel Deep,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yep.
and Mike Boulding.
Yes. Okay, now we'd be looking for a second motion on the second portion of that.
I move the board accept the bid from CDW in the amount of $90,387 for the purchase of 363 Chromebooks for students in 8th and 9th grade.
Second.
Ms. Huska, anything? You're the nod to Mr. Murray on this one for a second. Take you each to the draw here. Alrighty, once again, the Chromebooks is for the 18, 19, 8th grade, 9th grade students, so that way we maintain our one-to-one initiative with the
Just,
Chromebooks.
if I may interject, just to be clear, so we're not asking for the 8th grade to become a one-to-one grade level, but with the 9th through 12th grades becoming a one-to-one environment and the 8th grade moving here, there are limited labs now here because we just didn't need labs anymore. So we need to have computers for our 8th grade students. So this is going to look like charging stations in many of the 8th grade classrooms with Chromebooks for the 8th graders to access and use throughout the day so that they aren't being left out of the equation when it comes to technology. So they're not going to be taking the Chromebooks home, they're not their Chromebooks. This is just so they have equitable access to using computers.
And this will actually help to acclimate them to their next level up where they'll have it full time.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this?
Why does it say 8th and 9th grade students then?
Because the 9th grade are coming into having they are getting the
But don't they get the
one-to-one.
ones from the 12th graders who are passing out?
No, those are
not in good shape.
Yeah.
They are leaving with the option to purchase that Chromebook for a small fee. But Chromebooks really have a 3-year lifespan, and we've been able to eke out 4 years out of this. Many of them are not in very good shape. You want to talk a little about that?
I mean, they're definitely abused. I've seen them dropped off the stairs before, and they hold up I don't know the guy who fixes them in the room over there, but he does a good job. But they're definitely used up after 4 years.
Some of them we'll keep for parts and things like that for
Yeah.
replacements, but.
Any other questions on that? Hearing none, Bobby, let's do roll call one more time.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
and Mike Boldig.
Yes. All right, on item H, maintenance, bleacher improvements. Looking for a motion, please.
I move the board accept the bid from the Paddock Bleachers in the amount of $19,980 for the bleacher improvement project.
Motion by Ms. Mead, second by Mr. Pyatt.
Are these at Schofield?
No.
What bleachers in the,
So what
what
this,
bleachers? All bleachers?
so what this is at the high school, there's 3 sections of bleachers that are on the main field house floor. That is obviously by far and above the most used, and any of the big games that we have outside events coming in, or outside schools coming in. It's typically at the high school when you get to graduation. There's a lot of events there, and a number of them include primarily parents, grandparents, that type of customers, visitors. So when they were installed, the code was not required that they have aisleways with hand railings that go up them. This price would take those 3 sections of bleachers that are on the main field house floor and put 2 aisleways up the south set, 2 aisleways up the north set, and 1 aisleway up the east set with handrails, and there would be, I believe there are roughly 5-inch steps in between. So we can avoid such injuries as a gentleman that had slipped earlier this year at a basketball game and fell because obviously the steps from seat to seat are quite a bit larger than that.
Okay.
So this isn't a requirement by the state. They can't force us to catch up with the code. We'd never be able to afford it all, but this is certainly one that will pay dividends by just avoiding 1 fall injury.
Right.
And this is remodeling our existing bleachers.
Correct.
To meet this, so it's not.
To improve safety, basically.
Yes.
Correct.
That's good.
Yeah, and Bobby has fielded several phone calls wonderfully to appease the people that have been affected, so. We got lucky once, we need to make sure that we avoid it a second time.
Any other questions of Jake on that?
The hospital.
Hearing none, Bobby, let's do roll call, please.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
and Mike Boldig.
Yes. Very good. Item I, excuse me, maintenance once again, HVAC bids for East Elementary. Jake, you wanna give us a little enlightenment there?
So what we have, we posted bids as we did last year, invited, I believe there was 7 mechanical contractors to bid on it. 3 showed interest, 2 opted out, and 1 actually submitted a number for us. It is the same contractor that won the bid last year. We had 2 bids submitted last year, and this contractor had won the bid by over $100,000 cheaper than the next number. I would have really liked to have more numbers, but I think that being public knowledge in the small town that we're in sends a pretty strong signal that obviously last year's winner of the bid and the person that did a job that is almost identical to it kind of knew what he was doing, and the others didn't feel like taking the time to submit a number, fearing that they wouldn't get it because of the outcome of the bid last year. Within that bid, I broke it down and I looked at last year's numbers. There is only one. I wanted to make sure that we were staying competitive with a little bit of inflation for typically construction costs about 4% per year. East Elementary is within 500 square feet of size, but it has a few smaller rooms. And the total bid actually came out to be, best guess that I can tell before all the pennies are counted, is between $5,000 and $10,000 cheaper than last year's total project cost.
And this is bigger than the other facility?
It is about 500 square feet bigger, but it has less room, so that shades it a little bit because there's 1 or 2 less unit vents included in there, which is a couple $1,000, so that may be the number. But I was happy to see that. I was expecting a 4% inflation, and it's actually a little bit under, so I feel very confident that that number's in line.
Are you satisfied with the work done at the other facility?
Yes. Inside their bid, they had competitive bids, and those are the second columns that you see, which are the informational bids. They had 3 different numbers for 3 different control applications, and we obviously awarded the low bid on that. We had 2 numbers for the electrical application, and that we awarded to the low bid as well. So even though we only have the 1 mechanical contractor that submitted a number, we do have some competitive bidding within that number, and we do have the previous history that supports that this number is in line and is, I think, very advantageous to the only other that we had last year by over $100,000. So I was very happy that this contractor bid again and that his numbers were in line. Because typically in the construction industry, if you submit the first bid and you leave $100,000 on the table, next time you're not going to leave that much on the table. So I was very happy to see that this contractor resubmitted and treated it the same fair way as he did last time.
I see we don't have any running this through as a motion, but I believe that would be an appropriate action at this time. So be looking for a motion to approve the bid from Forefront Mechanical for $577,186.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pyatt, second by Ms. Long.
This does include air conditioning, correct?
So, any discussion after Jake has given us the details? All right. Bobby, roll call.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Nolte,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
and Mike Koldig.
Yes. Very good. On to item J, summer hours for support staff.
So this is a recommendation of the continuation of what you piloted last year, where the summer support staff could work 4 10-hour days beginning June 18th. It would be Monday through the end of July.
I make a motion.
Do we need a motion to do that, or just?
No, we did it as a one-year pilot, so we're bringing it
Okay,
back.
yeah. then
I
we'll
make
do
a
it.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion from Dr. Deep, second from Ms. Long. For the summer hours for the support staff. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Don't think we have any new hires, so be looking, item L, resignations, so we'd be looking for a motion.
I move the board accept the following resignations. Cindy Fisher, Director of Instruction, effective June 30th, 2018. Therese Zaluski, elementary teacher at Spring Valley, effective June 1st, 2018. Joanne Krieger, instructional assistant at North and substitute caller, effective June 1st, 2018. Jane Babler, instructional assistant at the high school, effective June 1st, 2018. And Terry Liz, 4K teacher, effective June 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Mead, second from Ms. Huska. Any discussion on any of these? I think we'll have a chance to read the information presented.
I just want to say that I didn't know the girl that sent that list, Terry. I don't know who she is, but I know the other four have given a lot of time and a lot of years to the district, and
I sincerely appreciate that.
and very much appreciated, and I wish them luck in their
Yes, we will.
future endeavors.
Yes, we will. Okay, I think we should do roll call on this one, Bobby.
Noldie,
Yes.
Mary Newfeld,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Mike Bolden.
Yes. And as Mary so eloquently put it, we thank each and every one of them for their service to our district and their time spent here, and we do appreciate it. So, thank you. Alrighty, item M, donations. Looking for a motion, please.
I move the board accept the following donations. $750 from Hydrotite for AHS softball, $500 from Hydrotite for AHS drama playbill, $500 from Hydrotite for bowling club, and $400 from Sandra Walzer for AHS softball, $680 from Culvers for FFA, $500 from Carl's Transport for girls soccer, $200 from the Northwoods Tractor Club for the AHS Auto Shop, all donations totaling $3,530.
Okay, motion from Ms. Mead, second from Mr. Pyatt.
Mike, if I could add, I don't know if the board is aware, we spoke about the school forest project. And we received in addition to this, we received a pledge for $250,000 in matching money for the school forest project. So we're real hopeful that we can get that to fruition as well. So it's a very nice donation.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any discussion on that donation? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I was hoping to see. We appreciate each and every one of those donations from our community partners, and appreciate their support of our programs here. That brings us to the end of business for tonight, other than be looking for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 param C concerning employment performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibilities, specifically regarding administrative contracts and non-renewals. Also pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 param E to deliberate or negotiate a public business matter, specifically to discuss the revised agreement with the motion on, second from Ms. Huska. Roll call vote, please.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader, Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Mary? Yes. No, Mary.
Oh, Andy, Mary.
That's okay. Steve?
Yes.
Danny Hyatt?
Yes.
And Mike Foley?
Yes.
Okay, we answered, that's good.